Hey everyone, welcome back to Paramistic Christina. I'm your host, Christina Bloom, and I just want to welcome you all back. I know I skipped a couple of weeks over the holidays, so it is what it is. It's okay. When my show releases on Wednesday morning, we have two holidays in a row on Wednesdays. That happens. It just happens. So welcome back, and I would like to, first of all, thank you for being here. And second of all, hit that subscribe button, ring bells, share with your friends, do whatever you got to do. Let's get this out because today I have an incredible guest and we have a really interesting topic. We were just discussing off camera. It's going to be interesting. But first, let me just introduce Deidre Sanford. You are a root cause therapy practitioner
I am.
and a psychic medium.
I am.
And what else?
I am a trauma-informed coach. I am just finishing up my holistic life coaching certification, and I'm also an energy worker.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of
Awesome.
mix them all together.
Yeah. Between your qualifications and my qualifications and our combined life experience,
Right.
uh, talking about doing the inner work or the
Yeah.
shadow work, that's going to be a pretty interesting topic today. That is what we're going to be talking about because, as we're coming into, we're in the age of Aquarius. The the first 3 days of this year have already been pretty
Spooky.
interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, a couple terrorist attack and some, let's see, a plane hit a building somewhere. I don't remember where, somewhere, I think in Europe. It's just been crazy already. And a whole bunch of us, and I say us collectively as the human
Yeah.
race, are going through kind of this great awakening.
Yeah.
Some have already, done a lot of the inner work to get there. When you wake up one day and you're just like, life doesn't make sense anymore. What day is it? What time is it? Where the hell am I? What's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
It's
let's
crazy.
talk about how to help people get through that and how people can help themselves get through that because a lot of the world is also in a mental health crisis right
Yep.
now, meaning it's hard to get into a mental health practitioner, a
It's hard to
therapist,
recognize.
counselor,
Yeah, it's hard
psych.
to recognize that you need one too. Or if you
Yeah,
recognize it, it's hard to say, hey, I need help.
right, right. And then when you do say, I need help, is there somebody available to help?
Right.
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 So we've got all of that going on too. And oof, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of like walking through quicksand in a system that's not designed to support.
Exactly. Exactly. And we've been treading earthquake energy for years now, and oh, it's getting exhausting, isn't it?
The eggshells get to be a little bit fragile.
They do. They
But
sure do.
that's why people like us do what we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that most anybody listening to this knows that I'm a psychic, I'm a medium. I am also a certified hypnotist. I can help people with past life, early childhood stuff, just by using hypnotism to be able
Yeah.
to access some of those memories or even to back up prior to a traumatic event
Yeah.
and, deal with it in a different way mentally so that it doesn't keep causing the trauma that it's been
It's
causing. It's amazing. And there are so many different ways to do it. Hypnosis is one of them. Root cause therapy is another one. Trauma informed coaching is another one. I mean, there's just
yeah.
sometimes even psychic readings or Akashic record
Yeah.
readings can be very helpful. And those are things that I do too. And I don't know, do you do those two things, Akashic records in past
I
life?
don't do Akashic records.
Okay.
It's on my radar. It's something I've considered. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I am finishing up my life coaching, which has a lot of cueing built into it. And life coaching in general, right,
Right.
provides us with a lot of tools. And as coaches, just like doing your hypnotherapy work, doing a lot of your own educational work, we go through the experiences the same way our clients do.
Right.
And not only does it better prepare us to be centered and grounded when we're working with clients who are bringing up their stuff,
Right.
but it also gives us an idea of what's it like to be in the client seat.
Hmm.
So I think you've got a great topic for us to work with here today.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Should we dive in?
Go for it.
All
Well,
right.
maybe the other thing that, sorry,
No, go
that
ahead.
we might consider addressing is I think there are, in my experience, there are more therapy providers, whether it be a healing modality, it be a Western certified person, who have lived experience with a
Hmm.
tremendous amount of the material that clients are bringing in.
Right.
I also think that in our modalities that we utilize, clients find us because there's an energetic vibration that they can recognize.
Absolutely.
And they know that they can bring that particular issue to the table with us because we've been there.
Right.
Also,
Exactly.
the psychic mediumship work and training, we need to be able to be clear to deliver messages to people without triggering ourselves, without stepping into judgment. So there's a whole lot of preparation that goes
Yes.
into getting us practitioners ready to stay available and stay open to work with our
Right.
clients when they come to sit with us. And I know Western practitioners go through a similar, a lot of similar training for that
Right.
purpose. Um, but that lived experience is actually kind of valuable, I think.
Oh, I agree. I agree completely. Yeah. It's it's really hard to talk someone through a process you haven't been through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So both of us having been through, addictions
Mhm.
counseling and recovery and domestic violence recovery and suicide recovery and, all of that, because we both have those backgrounds, I feel like that does make us especially qualified to help
Sure.
people who have those things. That said, I am not a certified therapist, but I am a certified medium and and a psychic and all of that. And so are you.
Mhm.
So,
It's interesting, and I love that we have such a vast and varied audience
yeah,
for your show. Here in the States, I can't call myself a therapist,
right,
although my certification is root cause therapy therapist or root cause therapist. I can't say that here in the States
right,
because, like you, I don't have the letters after my name from a university or a college.
right.
It is more widely accepted, to my understanding, in other countries.
Yeah, in some other countries, it really depends on the country, but yeah, it is. Um, at least from what I've heard from people who live in those countries.
Right, you know, we both. But in my root cause
Yeah.
therapy comes from Australia.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
other people don't have to work as hard to figure out what am I going to call myself?
Right.
How do I explain to people who I am and what I do?
Right. And because I don't have the letters after my name, I can't say I'm a hypnotherapist, but I
Right.
can say I'm a certified hypnotist because I am.
There you go.
We do the same work. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. We do the same work. But yeah, we just have to be careful so we don't get ourselves in legal trouble over that. But I think it's time to dive in.
Go for it.
Yeah. What does it mean to do your shadow work? Like, what does that mean when I say that? What does it mean to you?
Several things come to mind, one of which is giving ourselves permission to look at and make friends with the parts of us that we hide because we don't like them.
Okay.
Um, when I was a kid, I was a little mouthy. I was a protector, and I didn't hesitate to open my mouth. Somebody runs up my mom's heel with the grocery cart, and I would turn on that person. And I was like, oh, don't be so mouthy. Mm. But what we learn is the things that we're mouthy about as kids are who we are innately, the
Hmm.
caretaker, the protector, the helper.
Right.
But that it gets turned off. We turn it off because others in society, teachers, parents, community, tell us, oh, that's not a good part of you.
Right. The
That's my
part that
favorite.
stands up and says, don't treat people bad.
Yeah, right.
That's not okay. It's not okay to tell people not. What? No. It is absolutely okay to say, stop treating people badly.
Right.
It is absolutely okay to do that. But yeah, there is that shadow part. And for me, the shadow part wasn't just the parts I don't like, it was the parts I wasn't aware of.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
Like that.
I didn't know I had innate healing ability.
Right.
But once I found that out, that opened up a whole world for me as far as healing myself. And doing the shadow work really means not just discovering those parts that we either don't like or aren't aware of, but also incorporating them consciously into ourselves, right? So that's where things like root cause therapy and hypnotism really come in handy, is being able to integrate those things, being able to maybe go back into our childhood and pull our kid out of a bad situation, our inner child out of a bad
Mhm.
situation, bring them forward and integrate them into our now. And that is an incredibly healing thing to be
Yeah.
able to do. Some people need help with it. Some people can just go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do? Got it. I can do
Right.
that. you know? So, yeah, but to me, that's doing the shadow work. That's the integrating those parts of us, whether we don't like them or we're just unaware of them.
Mhm.
That's where I come at with that. Doing the inner work, is that the same thing, do you think?
I think the two are kind of attached to each other.
Yeah,
We can separate them,
yeah.
but I think they're also inextricably linked. Um, let's talk about emotions.
No,
We're
I don't want to
not
talk about
taught
emotions.
as children. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I don't want to.
Exactly.
No, no, don't want to talk about emotions.
We're not taught as children that it's okay to have emotions.
No,
And I
I
see,
think the generation that's raising children now, I think they're better with it.
I agree.
I think
Um,
they're better with it.
I love it when I
Yeah,
see a mom hanging out with their child in the cart, on the floor, wherever this child is having its tantrum. Mom's hanging out,
yeah,
looking look a little chagrined, but making sure that child is physically safe and allowing them to go through their emotional process. And I think that's so key. We weren't, my generation, our generation
no.
wasn't able to do that.
Mm-mm.
We had to shut them off.
Yeah.
Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. That's a good
Oh,
one.
my.
No, no childhood trauma there.
No, no. I had nightmares about that phrase for years.
Oh,
Oh
so
my God.
I think it's necessary that we learn to develop the capacity to sit with our emotions. And
Right.
that alone is, to me, part of
Hmm.
inner work.
Right.
Learning to identify an emotion, learning to give it a name. And it doesn't have to be a widely agreed upon name. The name that you have works for you. You know what that feels like. You know what that means. Go with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. If crappy means that you feel a certain way and you can identify how you feel to that
Right.
word, use that word. Up to you.
Yep.
Completely up to you. I was going to say that, I think that the first time I really started integrating the parts of me that I was either unaware of or didn't like, I think it's when I was going through addictions treatment.
Hmm.
And I kept having a recurring dream that I was being chased. And the feeling about that was like kind of the headless horseman feel, like I was being chased and I was
Yeah.
just running and running and running and running. And after about the third or fourth time having that dream in a pretty short span of time, I decided I was going to my and also my first time lucid dreaming, I was going to take control of that and find out what was
Mhm.
chasing me. And in that dream I did that. And I stopped and I turned around and I was face to face with myself. And that, ooh,
Yeah. Hello.
the monster chasing me was me. Holy crap. Like, what?
Well, I was running around looking for myself, and there I
Yeah.
was.
And there I was, but I was afraid of myself too,
Uh-huh.
because much like you, I was a little mouthy and I was the one who would, I had a brother that needed standing up for, and I was the one who was usually there, so I stood up for him. And it didn't occur to me that maybe I wasn't quite big enough to fight the battles my mouth was trying to start.
Yeah. Oops.
But oops. Um, so I did a fair
Up
amount of
a little bit.
scrapping as a kid,
Mhm.
but I was used to that because that's what happened in my house too,
Yeah.
right? So if you're used to living with violence, violence isn't abnormal for you.
Right.
And coming face to face with myself, thinking I was going to turn around and face a monster, that really kind of just stopped me in my tracks. And I went, oh, I don't want to be scary. I don't want to be scary even to myself,
Yeah.
so that was a huge thing for me. And I was 16 at the time. So,
But you've integrated it so well.
oh, it took a while, but yeah, I
Of course it did.
integrated it.
Yeah. But you did. I
Yeah.
mean, you have a particular way of making people feel comfortable and safe
Well,
and
thank you.
making it easy and safe for people to be vulnerable with you.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you.
I am glad to be a safe space
Yeah.
because I feel like there's not enough of those in this world.
And it's the other component, though, to being
Yeah.
an effective practitioner
Hmm.
is being able to set that tone, set the energy for the space, and create that safe container for whoever the person is that you're speaking with
Right.
and working with
Right.
to be themselves and to feel safe in doing so. Because so many of us aren't given the opportunity to feel safe within
Right.
ourselves or to be ourselves in whatever environment.
Right.
That was me for
Well,
like 45 years. So
you just triggered another thought for me, and
what's so triggered?
given a place to feel safe.
Yeah,
If you're really going to do the work, you don't wait for someone to give it to you.
this is true.
You
But
take it.
part of the process is learning
Right.
that you can provide that safety for yourself at first and
Hmm.
foremost.
Right.
Then you learn you don't have to rely on other people
Right.
give you or create for you that safe space.
Right.
We don't know that in like the first 7 years of our life. We don't know
Right.
that.
No, of course not,
We're
because we're completely reliant on the people that we live with.
and we have no choice. So
No.
we get what we got.
Right. But when it occurred to me that I was only responsible for taking that safe space for myself, for
Yep.
creating it for myself, that's when the inner work started to really take hold. Because I stopped waiting for somebody to give me permission to heal.
And in part, that's also stepping into your own power.
It is.
And when we feel safe, when we feel empowered, or when we understand that we have at least enough power to create that safe space for
Yes,
ourselves, now we can dive even further.
exactly.
I think probably the way I learned to do that, um, an old friend and mentor of mine told me one time because I was grousing, right? And go through that process of, oh my God, you won't believe what happened. And now I'm stuck and I'm repeating this low vibe energy and I
Mhm.
can't see my way out of it because I'm the center of it. And this friend of mine said, practice being the outside objective observer.
Oh, I
I'm like,
like that.
what does that even mean? I don't understand. What? Are you telling me to disassociate? No. But if I remove my own filter, if I see things for what they are, rather
Hmm.
than through my emotional lenses, so to speak, because we filter everything we encounter through our experience,
Exactly.
we can step outside our experience and pretend we're, I don't know, a fly on the wall
Hmm.
without the emotional attachment and just observe. We're that much freer
Oh, yeah.
to step out of whatever somebody's trying to suck us into, whether it be a goading situation, a narcissistic abuse type situation, the drunken alcoholic on a tirade. That was my situation. And when I started backing away from my emotional response,
Hmm.
which is not always, it's not a lifestyle I recommend, ignoring the emotions, but when I was able to practice, I'm not my emotions
Right.
by being the observer of whatever the situation was, I quit catering to the needs of this person and standing on my own 2 feet. instead of literally sitting down on the floor, putting myself below them,
Mhm.
looking up and saying, tell me what's wrong, tell me what's wrong, because I'm the fixer, right? If I fix it and I make you happy and you're pleased, I'm no longer in danger of angry explosion, an angry outburst, nasty words. Once I stepped outside of that and learned to become the outside objective observer, that person chose the door and exited my life on their own. Sometimes that's all it takes to stop the interconnectedness of the drama.
Right.
And I'll tell you that feeling
Mhm.
when we step outside the emotion, that's for me, that was kind of inner work, right? Because now I can see it for what it was and I'm not attached to that emotion. So I'm not getting caught in that emotional cycle or stopping the emotional cycle.
Right.
I'm outside it. So learning to release the emotion
Mhm.
is part of inner work for me.
It was interesting when, as you were describing, like, become the fly on the wall and watch it.
Yeah.
For me, that's um, just because of my teaching through the Native American teaching and all of that. It's like the hawk. Hawk medicine is when you can pull yourself up out of
Yes.
a situation and look at it from the outside.
That's so funny.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's we're saying the same thing using different words,
And
but yeah,
I'm realizing that's probably why hawk is one of my totems. As you say that, I'm like,
right.
oh,
Oh, yeah, hey, kind of makes sense.
yeah.
But hawk medicine gives us the ability to remove ourselves emotionally from a situation and watch it from the outside and just watch, how maybe I'm interacting with somebody and how I'm feeding the situation and how to stop feeding the situation.
And that
Yeah.
is key to learning to stop being a part of the pattern.
Mhm.
And that's hard. That's always something I think that we need to come to on our own.
I
At
think
some
so
point
too.
in our recovery process, we need to step back and say, how am I participating?
Hmm.
Because this pattern has been showing up in my life for 40 years. Where's
Through
the
how
common
many
denominator?
relationships and through
Yeah.
how many? Yeah.
I'm the common denominator here, so I'm feeding it somehow. And
Right.
that's about the same time we stop that. That's about the same time we stop blaming everyone else.
Hmm.
And then we can consider taking some accountability, which
Hmm.
enables us to do the work. But
Exactly.
that itself is part of the work.
It is part of the work. And
Yeah,
also, taking it one step further, being able to, in our own minds, pull out and watch the conversation we're having with ourselves and how that contributes to the craziness that we
yeah,
create in our own lives. And because if you're already having the conversation in your head and then you encounter the person that you just had a conversation with that they're not aware of, and
exactly.
you just kind of jump in and start it, yeah, I mean, it's being able to get really honest with ourselves and our own behaviors and our own thought patterns, because a pattern is just a pattern and you can break it by creating a different pattern. It
So,
sounds so simple, right?
well, and you know what? At the end of the day, it really is. But what makes it complicated is the fact that we're human beings,
Uh-huh.
and that's what we do.
And our brains
But
like to play with stuff because that's what brains do.
yeah, well, it's interesting that you say that because one of the questions for my life coaching people is, so what could you be doing that's keeping you, what are you saying to yourself, or what are you actively doing that's keeping you in this cycle? And there's always a very pregnant, well, almost always a very pregnant pause.
Yeah.
The first couple times we have that conversation, people are like, I don't know what to think or where to go with that question. But and
Hmm.
so initially, when you ask yourself that, even initially, there's this blank canvas and no answer.
Hmm.
But if you just wait a minute, your higher self, your subconscious, however you choose to look at it, your team and spirit will hand you the answer.
Oh, they will.
And then
Yes.
my challenge is, okay, that's one answer, go deeper.
Hmm. Should we really challenge people and bring meditation into the fold?
You know what? I think meditation is actually, first, we have to talk about the fact that there are many, many ways to multiply, to
Oh,
meditate.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah.
meditation, I have learned in my own growth and development process, when I was still actively living in my cycles, there was not a chance that I could allow myself to feel safe, to sit quietly, eyes closed, in that standard where we all think we need to go for meditation way. It did
Right.
not feel safe. So while yes, I think meditation is very valuable, I don't think it has to be introduced or started on your own in kind of the right place in your healing journey.
Yeah.
Sometimes, most of us anyway.
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah. Early on, there's no way I could have sat for more than 30 seconds and tried to meditate. So that's why I bring it up though, because
Yeah,
there are so many different ways to meditate, right? So if you can't sit in lotus position or whatever you want to call that and just breathe for 30 minutes going om, you know what? It's okay. I really don't know that many people who
right,
do that
right,
anyway, right?
right.
But you can go for a walk.
Yep. You can do the laundry.
You can do the laundry, you can do the dishes, you can do,
Yeah.
as long as you're in the moment, you're meditating.
Pick a mundane task,
Yeah,
right? That's brainless, doing dishes, doing laundry. For me, for a while, it was mowing the lawn or gardening. That kept my hands busy. And
right.
gardening, granted, I had my hands in the dirt and was grounding, but the back of my mind,
Hmm.
those thoughts, those things that were churning could surface up a little bit. And I could have some distance while I was acknowledging them. I didn't have
Yeah.
to dive deep. They just needed to float up. And sometimes just shining a light on something
Hmm.
can facilitate a shift,
Right.
make us see
Exactly.
it differently.
Just becoming aware of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, living most of my life outside of larger cities, I've always had access to wilderness area.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm only a 10-minute drive from a state park, So there's always been like a wilderness area where I could walk in the woods or sit and listen to a river or a stream. I'm 10 minutes from Lake Michigan, one of the Great Lakes of the world, and I can sit on the shore and just listen to the waves coming and going. And
Oh man.
those things for me cause a very deep meditative state. Just being out in nature, being able to feel the trees and absorb the negative ions in the air from the trees
Mhm.
and all of that. But if you live in a city, I'm sure there's got to be some kind of a park or something you can ground yourself in,
More than likely.
you know?
Or even on the easement, right? Like that space between the sidewalk and the street,
Hmm.
trees, plants, even just walking with that divider between you and the traffic
Hmm.
can be beneficial.
Yeah.
I used to, I don't know, like this is going to sound kind of interesting. I used to get my best hits when I was either doing laundry or doing dishes, and of course, all the time in the shower.
Right.
But that's, my mind is clear. I'm not thinking about 72 things at once and not able to hear myself as that's happening. I'm doing laundry. I'm, scrubbing an ink stain out of a shirt and I'm focused on getting that stain out. Is it out? Is it out? So the rest of my brain is freed up to do what it needs to do so that it can work through something. It's like, do you ever go to sleep with a question in your brain? Like you're trying to remember something and you're digging, right? Consciously digging through your brain looking for something through the filing cabinets of your brain. And you wake up the next morning and over coffee, all of a sudden there's the answer.
Yeah.
Because we slept. We
We
turned
gave
our
our brain a
brain off.
break.
Yeah. And now, because our brain isn't running 70 miles an hour, we can hear what's actually coming up.
Right.
I love that time of
Right.
day.
My husband wakes up with one of those brains that's just going, going, going.
I'm
And
sorry.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your empathy because it gets challenging for me.
Yeah.
He is completely amused by the fact that I don't, so he plays with that time.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coffee, please. No.
Coffee now.
Um, yeah, I trained my husband before we even got married. Don't speak to me until I've had my first cup of coffee. It's for your safety. It works well. So we don't really speak until we're each at least about halfway through our first cup of coffee.
Oh, that's nice.
We don't always see each other in the morning either, but
Yeah, I get that, but it's just kind of funny because my brain takes a long time to wake up, and I think it's because my soul is out there
Yeah.
traversing the universe, I guess. It takes me a long time some
Yeah.
days to get back all of me that's out there in the universe, like pulling all of my soul back to me. And
Yep.
sometimes, it's like I know people who are like, "Oh, I'm just an awful morning person," blah blah. Don't try not to think about it being an awful morning person. Think
Yeah.
about it as, well, the rest of my soul is still out adventuring. I'm waiting for it to come back. So call it back. It's like, all
Well,
right, time to come home.
and it's interesting that you say that. You said, I'm a bad morning person, or people say I'm a bad
Yeah,
morning person. So much of, I think, the inner work starts with becoming aware of how we speak to ourselves or how we
right.
refer to ourselves, what we
Yeah.
say about ourselves. I used to call myself a dork or say I'm a dork so often years ago that one of my girlfriends went out and got me a baseball shirt that said dork across the front. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world. And I was proud to wear it and I owned it. And I realized now, energetically, what I was doing when I wore that shirt. But yeah, learning to be aware of how you speak to yourself in your
Right.
head, in my estimation, is a huge component.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And the question that I use to get people to realize that they're doing that is, would you talk to me that way? Or would you talk to your friend that way?
Mhm.
No. Then
Yeah, I think
stop talking to you that way.
you might have used that on me once or twice.
Maybe. I think
I don't
that's
do
been
it.
both ways.
I don't do it nearly as often as I used to. And it's funny, just those little insidious things that we
Hmm.
don't realize we're doing are part of our pattern.
They really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little crazy, but yeah.
The feeling, though, when you become aware that you're stopping yourself from running a repetitive script that's detrimental,
Hmm.
is like one of those aha moments. Like the light bulb goes off over your head. It worked that way for me.
Yeah,
Or
me too.
walking away from a conversation, fully engaged in the conversation. It was rolling along okay. There were a couple of kind of uncomfortable moments. I got in my car and I drove away and I started feeling heavy. I didn't like myself. And I'm like, okay, wait, where did this come from?
Hmm.
Oh, I'm blaming that conversation for making me feel that way. Let's dive further into the conversation. How did they what words did they use? How did they truly say those words? Did I flip it in my head or was it truly presented that way? And I'm just so used to hearing people speak to me that way that I let it go.
Right.
That's another part, I think, of, I don't know that that's as much, I don't know, shadow work, inner work. I think they're pretty interchangeable, but I
Hmm.
think that's another part of the process.
Oh,
When you
right. Yeah.
start consciously challenging your emotions, where are you coming from? And not maybe challenging, that might be a harsh word, but let's say getting curious about it.
Hmm.
You don't have to make friends with it. But when we start getting curious about it and asking questions, we start opening doors
Absolutely.
that, we might need a little WD-40 to open some of those doors. But when we open
Oh,
those
yeah.
doors, we find oftentimes that there's really nothing to be afraid of behind the door.
Yeah.
It's just how we process it, the emotion that we attach to it. It's another aha moment is, that's a conscious practice at first.
Right.
But
Right.
eventually you become aware that, whoa, I just worked that whole process and it was kind of an automatic thing. That's a huge day to celebrate.
It
So you know
is.
how far you are on your healing path
It
because you
is.
learned to be curious.
Right.
Why do I feel like this?
I was very, very blessed some years ago to have a therapist who could work with me at my level, okay,
Nice.
at my thought process. So I wrote a script for her to talk me through.
Very
And and that script was going into that black box inside of me that was holding on to all the
yeah.
ick, you
Yeah.
know? All that ick
I
was
love it.
holding on to it. But she worked with the script that I wrote, and I was so grateful for that because when I went into that black box and it presented in a weird way. It was almost like a hobbit hut, like built into a hill.
Oh, cool.
And I had two of my spirit guides standing at the door when I went in and started rifling through all these old,
Mhm.
they were cardboard boxes that were like wet and moldy, and
Yep.
digging through those and getting rid of it. And you know what I found in there? Not one thing belonged to me.
Hmm.
It was all stuff that I picked up from other people,
Yeah.
stuff that I held on to, shame that I held on to, all of those things throughout the whole years, through relationships, through childhood, through all of it. Everything that I pulled out of there did not belong to me.
Did you hand it back?
No, you know what I did? I left it there
Nice.
and I walked out, and my spirit guides threw torches in there and burned the place down.
Oh my gosh. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the creativity in your process.
Oh, I don't know where that comes from. It must be like given to me from somewhere. But yeah, it was like, yeah, they just torched
That's
it.
so cool.
Yep.
So cool.
Burned the whole place down.
I think we forget that, well, as you're saying, you've created some of your own healing tools.
Hmm.
Um,
Feel free to use that, by the way, if that
yeah,
works for you.
yeah,
Feel free,
seriously.
use it,
Hey,
please.
let the
Yeah.
curiosity take you wherever
Yeah.
and it's going to show it to us more often than not because of the way our subconscious mind is our protector. It's not going to let us look at things that we're not ready to face.
Right.
It's only going to let us go as far as we're capable of processing, which is why we
Hmm.
have to go back and heal the same types of situations or the same situations more than once. But better to chip away at it than to re-traumatize ourselves in
Right.
the process.
Right.
Um,
It goes deeper though, right? So every
mhm,
time that you go back to it, you're at a deeper
yeah,
level and you're releasing from a deeper level. But because you've already got a
yeah.
process in place, it goes faster.
Well, yeah, okay, let's take the Western therapy philosophy of peeling the onion.
Okay.
This is why we go back more than once. We scrape off a layer and we adjust to what that facilitated for us change wise. And now we're ready to look even deeper and
Right.
even deeper. I mean, there are people like um, some people stay in psychoanalysis for a lifetime. You absolutely can. You don't have to.
You don't have to. Yeah.
And that's something else we were talking about backstage is top down. So solving problems with conscious thought versus solving problems by dealing with emotions in our body,
Hmm.
patterns and processes in our body. Um, I like there's that whole school of thought that says you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it.
Exactly.
It's similar. Sometimes we do create the problems in our own minds.
Hmm.
But what's driving that? Ooh, it's the belief system that we were born with, that we brought in from a past life, that we
Hmm.
observed as littles from our environment. And back to what you said, some of this stuff isn't even ours.
Right.
Some of it is stuff that our ancestors experienced. It was heavily imprinted into them. It became a part of their DNA. And if we think about it, women are born with every egg they're ever going to have.
Right.
How much DNA of how many ancestors are you actually carrying?
A lot.
And that's not just women who are carrying it, it's the boys that are being birthed too.
Yeah.
So epigenetics is the fancy term for it, but we really are carrying our family and our ancestral trauma. And we're continuing to build it up within our DNA and then passing it along. So those of us who challenge ourselves to do this healing work, yeah, we're healing ourselves, but we're healing our ancestors and we're healing those who come after us.
Right.
I think the part that's really unfortunate about that is, as they say, most often the black sheep of the family is the one that's doing all the healing.
Right. Right. Because at some point we realize we're not the black sheep, we're the tie-dye goats.
I love the tie-dye goat. I love it. That's awesome. We're the
Well,
misfit.
and there is all that deep healing, but it does
Yeah.
change. It literally changes our DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
Um,
have been scientific studies on it, and I probably should have all those specs in front of me when I say things like that, but I don't.
um,
But I do know that I've read about those studies and
yeah.
that it literally changes our DNA that we are passing on to future generations
Right.
by doing the work to heal the trauma that we inherited.
And that's
Which,
amazing. I mean,
yeah,
we think sometimes when we're going through our healing process, sometimes things get worse before they get better, and we can feel heavy. We can feel lazy. We can feel like we've got the flu because we're releasing, right? Healing hangovers, by the way, the healing hangover cure is rest, take care of yourself, drink lots of water. My clients in root cause therapy get a meditation for helping to integrate the learnings that they bring back.
right.
Um, but it's there. It's true. It takes. This is something our boys aren't taught. Didn't used to be taught. Boys don't have emotions. Boys don't cry. Man, I have long held with the theory and said to many men, boys, somewhere in between, throughout my life, it takes a stronger person to sit there and let that emotion come up, let the tears flow, let the cleansing happen, than it does to tamp it down and pretend it's not happening.
Right.
We're damaging ourselves when we do that.
We are, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, it
It's
really is.
exhausting to hold all that in all the time.
Healing can be exhausting too.
Yeah.
It's exhausting in a different way. It's our nervous system acknowledging that
Right.
we're safe now.
Hmm.
It's okay to relax. And we've spent so much time in our fight or flight, in our struggle, tied up in knots. That's why I have part of the reason I have neck and shoulder issues. I carry my
Yeah.
stress and my tension in my neck, and my shoulders were always up at my ears.
Yeah.
It's our nervous system saying, wow, wait,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted, but in a good way. I'm exhausted because now it's okay. It's safe for me to relax.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, I sometimes have an issue with healing, particularly if I've or someone has been in a healing. I've been healing this. I've been working on healing this for 20 years. At what point are you just going to accept the fact that you've healed it and quit picking at the scab?
Hmm. Yeah. I
You know?
think I've done that once or twice.
I know I've done it once or twice or a dozen times, but it was my own experience that taught me that, you
Yeah.
know? When am I going to stop picking the scab and just let it heal?
Mhm.
Because at some point you've emptied it all out. Stop opening it up and looking for it.
It's a cool visualization for it, literally.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I decided that I was going to allow myself to be emotionally vulnerable and give my whole self, such as it was at the time, to the person I was dating. And I was laying in bed reading my book at night and I was thinking about it because we had a conversation about what do we call this relationship? What are we doing? Where are we going? I made the thought. I made the choice, right? And then I had to visualize it. So I closed my eyes. And what I realized is I was this warrior when I closed my eyes, right? Sword, shield, the whole nine, standing there, ready to do battle. Once I made that decision and I brought that warrior into my vision, the warrior looked down and she's looking at me like, what do you, my sword and shield are already on the ground. I'm glad you caught up. You know,
Yeah.
oh, okay. That to me, that was like my higher self, my
Yeah.
intuition, my inner guide, whatever, telling me it's safe.
Hmm.
Just do this.
Yeah.
So, now like
I
8 years
love that.
we're married and okay.
Okay. I
Um,
love that. We have about a minute left. What else have you got
wow.
to share with us?
Um, you know what? Healing is messy. There's no two ways about it. It's going to be messy. It's going to be exhausting, but the exhausting is good. It's a good sign most of the time, like 9 times out of 10.
Hmm.
Um, just run with it. You're stronger than you think, and you have all of the tools that you need to do the work that you need to do. And if you need a helping hand, there are people like us out there that are absolutely able to step up, walk with you on your journey, and withhold judgment, and only provide understanding and compassion and tools.
And with that, how do people find you?
Oh, gee. I have a Facebook page. My first name is Deidre and it's spelled weird. It's Deidre. So the Facebook page is Deidre and Friends. It's the shift seven and the ampersand. Or my website, which is my full name. It's Deidre, again, Deidre L. Sanford, just like the pen.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Deidre. This has been a great conversation. And
Oh,
I am so looking forward to doing this again because you touched on something that I think we're going to have to dig deeper on, and that is the body, mind, soul connection.
ooh,
So we're going to have to do another show incorporating the body and how all that works. So
that'd be fun.
yeah, that'll be fun. Everyone, thank you so much for listening and for just being with us and for joining us on your healing journey and allowing us to be part of it. If this show is the only part of it, that's fine. Otherwise, you can reach Deidre at her website or you can reach me at christinabloom.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. And you're listening to us on Zone 5 Radio. Have a great day.
Thank